Welcome to The Author Next Door, where hosts Angela Haas and Cassie Newell chat about the wild world of writing and publishing. Join them for weekly episodes and special monthly guests. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Welcome to episode 37. I'm Angela Haas, and I'm here with my co-host, Cassie Newell. And this month, we're doing deep dives into different genres. Today, we're talking with award-winning fantasy sci-fi author, David Hankins. David is the award-winning author of Death and the Taxman.
Hello.
He raised from the thriving cornfields of Iowa, where he lives with his wife, daughter, and 2 dragons disguised as cats. His short stories have graced the pages of Writers of the Future, Volume 39, Amazing Stories, Dreamforge Magazine, Escape Pod, Unidentified Funny Objects 9, and others. He devotes his time to his passions of writing, traveling, and finding new ways to pay his mortgage. Yeah, like the rest of us.
I love it.
Welcome, David. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we were able to connect.
Yes, there's so much to discuss with you, but tell us a little bit about how you got started on your writer journey and then all those accolades. I mean, that obviously didn't happen overnight, unless it did, and you've got
did
some
not happen
secret
overnight.
formula.
So I started in the oral tradition of convincing my daughter to go to sleep with inventive bedtime stories. I borrowed from the classics a bit, Chuck the protagonist, and put my daughter in. So she was the one fighting the dragons and rescuing the princesses and whatever. So clearly my plan to get her to go to sleep failed miserably. But then over time, those stories grew into 2.5 novels worth of storyline, and she's kept poking holes in it, going, "Wait, last night you said," so I had to start writing it down, and so that's how I got into writing. And then as far as actually getting published and the accolades and stuff like that, after taking the first of my novels that I thought was the next best thing since sliced bread and sending it out to all the agents, and the agents not even responding, I realized I needed to try something different. So I looked for short story contests, and the first thing to pop up on Google was Writers of the Future. I had no idea what that was. And I was like, well, maybe, because I've never studied anything about writing, maybe I should take an online writing class, free online writing class, Writers of the Future. Okay, clearly I need to check out these guys. And so I got into Writers of the Future, took their online class, which is all free, self-paced, outstanding classes that made me go, oh, that's what I'm missing. And I wrote my first short story with that. That story earned an honorable mention with Writers of the Future. And at that point, I was hooked on short stories. And so I just kept writing short stories. I found Wolf Moon's Wolfpack through that, and started studying his way of writing. And he has a way of making things sound so crisp and simple, whereas other books on writing I've read, it seems very complex. Anyway, but through a lot of study and just a lot of writing, I won Writers of the Future within 18 months of when I found them.
Wow.
Wow, that's incredible.
impressive.
And it's just been kind of the same trajectory since then. I sold 20 short stories in the last 2 years. I've got two novels now that I've self-published. Grab these so I can hold them up. So 2 novels I've self-published, as well as 2 collections in the same world. And
Nice.
and so yeah, that's kind of where it started. And the rest of the accolades have come as I've continued to write.
Wow. So you began with short stories. So what's the biggest shift you experienced moving from short form storytelling to novel length projects?
The best description I've heard of short story versus long is you're taking a boat across a lake. You're going to get across the lake whether you're using a speedboat or a rowboat, but it's a matter of how long it takes. So short stories are the speedboat. You get in the boat, you get to the other side and you get out and you're done. Whereas the novels, that's the rowboat. You stick around, you're enjoying the view, you got a lot
Right.
more that can go wrong on the way. And so for me, it was figuring out how to fill in that space. So my short story that won Riders of the Future was the original of Death and the Taxman. And
Oh,
so I
interesting.
took that short story and I expanded it into a full length novel. And the way the story is written, I had to have the same opening and closing scenes. So I had to
Sure.
fill in the middle. And I
Oh,
didn't want to have just filler. So it was figuring out, how do I create those sub story arcs? How do I have more beats of problems that he hits? And, it still has to keep getting worse and worse and worse as he's going through, to increase attention. So it's really figuring out how to fill out what I was writing, because I have a tendency to write very short and tight now.
Mhm. Interesting.
yeah, I can't do that. I mean, I think it's something I will challenge myself with, but I think it's the years of overthinking that I can't be short. I would want to add and add and add. But that's interesting. I didn't know that book started as a short story. So were you like doing your taxes and you're like, this feels like death? And oh, there's a story here.
Not
I
Like,
wanna kill
quite.
him.
yeah.
Not quite. So, yes, I do have a history of, I did get audited by the IRS, and maybe the villain is an auditor. Not he's hell's auditor. He's not an IRS auditor, but no, it actually was a combination of things. So when I wrote the story, the coordinating judge for Writers of the Future, Dave Farland, had passed away just a couple weeks prior.
Mhm.
And so I was very deep in the Writers of the Future community, lots of outpouring of grief and stuff like that. And Wolf Moon gave us a writing prompt at the time, because he gives writing prompts every week to, help build your writing skills. And it was winning the rigged game. Well, I was like, death is the ultimate rigged game. The Grim
Mhm.
Reaper always wins.
Right.
What if he didn't? What if he lost? What if he became human? Would he fight to stay alive as strenuously as we do? And I tried writing this deep, heartfelt story, and it just didn't work. Humor kept popping into it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to dive into the humor. I'd written a couple things that, kind of edged toward humor, but nothing that I'd really just gone all for it, like Terry Pratchett or Douglas Adams.
Right.
And this one I did, and it worked. And that's kind of where I discovered my voice of writing lighthearted fantasy and science fiction.
I love
Right.
that.
But but you're sort of a satirist though, aren't you? Isn't it
Uh,
satire? And
it
or
is it is
what's the
satire.
difference for listeners who are like, I'm interested in this, but what really makes satire satire? What's just something that's humorous?
So I'll point out that I did not consider it satire until John Goodwin from Writers of the Future sat me
Mhm.
down and said,
Yeah.
"This is what satire is. This is not satire. You have written satire about bureaucracies." I was like, "Oh, I guess I have, huh?" So to me,
I love that.
just humor is uh, things that we deal with in our everyday lives. You have the regular, and then that twist, the
Mhm.
unexpected thing that makes you laugh. That's, kind of the humor that I was aiming for. We deal with bureaucracy every day, so that's a lot of what my humor is about. Well, satire takes a look at a specific thing, whether it's politics or, in my case, bureaucracies, and looks at it through a warped lens. So that looking at it through the warped lens, we can see, oh yeah, yeah, that's what you're talking about. But we can still laugh at the absurdity of the thing, and hopefully someone walks away thinking, "Oh, that was really funny. We can do better." With that
Right.
thing that was satirized. So they're very closely related. People that go deep into satire, they actually have a lot less humor because they're just trying to make their point. I think
Oh,
mine worked really well because I focused on humor, and it happened to trip into satire as well.
nice.
I love Dave Barry.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's
absolutely.
my well, Dave Barry and Douglas Adams just were my first real writing inspirations for
Hmm.
humor, but they always were looking at something that needed change. But
Right.
I think
Yep.
sometimes when you come in from a humorous scope versus a dramatic one,
Hmm.
it doesn't close people off sometimes because everyone responds to something they find funny, and it keeps that conversation open. So that's
And that's one
really
thing I
interesting.
love about Terry Pratchett and his Discworld series.
Yeah. Yeah.
He always like poked very sharply at our modern world. I don't think there was any part of it that he didn't poke at some point. And yet, because it was presented through the lens of fantasy, people can, laugh at it, enjoy it, and go, yeah, slavery is wrong. This discrimination is wrong because they're seeing it in the scope of trolls and orcs, or trolls and dwarves, instead of humans and humans. And so
Right.
having that
Right.
slight pull back made it accessible to more people.
So comedy and kind of fantasy, that can be tricky because if you go too far, it breaks immersion, right?
Yes.
And if you hold back, it tends to fall flat. So what's your
Mhm.
advice for writers on weaving humor into fantastical worlds in a way that enhances rather than undercuts the story?
So
Wow. Good
I would
question,
say,
Cassie.
well, so first, with any rising tension, as you're writing your story,
Right.
you always want to have rising tension. And so you're supposed to ask, what's the next worst thing that can happen? And then, that's the what you go toward, the bad result of the
I
good thing
see.
that they did. Well, with humor, you add in, you still want rising tension. So the bad thing that can happen, but what's the crazy thing that can happen too? And
At the
so
same time.
at the same time, and hopefully it's the same
Love
thing,
it.
or maybe you're like, oh, okay, the really bad thing, the person's going to die. Well, that's a downer. Hopefully we're not going to be laughing at that particular thing,
Right.
but maybe there, we get some dark humor in the things surrounding it. That it gets silly as we lead up to that serious moment, and then it's
Hmm.
that high and low of, oh man, I'm really laughing at this. My goodness, they actually died. And so that is, what can make it effective. And with humor, as with any kind of tension, you want to have that waveform. So you
Right.
can't be all laughs all the time. That's where you break suspension of disbelief. If people are just throwing crazy after crazy after crazy without any serious to bring it to ground it again, uh, it's not going to work. People just go, oh, okay, I laughed a little bit,
Right.
but it's too much. Whereas on the other hand, if it's all serious, 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 it builds too much tension. You need a break. And so you
Yeah.
have that one character that just pops off a one liner, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And now it can get serious again. And so that's how you can pull humor in. If you're just using it to relieve tension, find those spots where it's too high. You had it going for a chapter or three of just tension, bring it down a little bit, and then you can bring it up more, because the mind, your soul, needs that little bit of a break. And if you're doing all, a humor story, you have to have those breaks of normalcy, those breaks of seriousness. So like, for Death of the Taxman, I've got entire chapters where there's not a single joke. He
Right.
has, that there's one point where he's having a memory dream sequence that ends in the one character that he loves getting banished to hell for 5,000 years. And it's a
Mm.
dark chapter. But then I followed that with this very cute, endearing chapter about telling a story to a 3-year-old. And
Yeah.
so it's that cycle.
And humor is very subjective, what makes
Mhm.
you laugh
It is.
doesn't make me laugh all the time. But you just have to put a little bit of yourself, what you find interesting and funny and humorous. That's what Marvel movies do beautifully. Is there's a heavy action sequence, a little drama, and then there's the one-liner, which
Right.
brings
Mhm.
everyone
The
back,
ribbing
Well,
Yeah, the
between
and
them.
ribbing, the one-liner. Yeah.
you can even have those silly moments as long as it's believable in your world.
Mhm.
So, I don't know if you watched the new Superman that just came out. but
Not
I haven't seen
yet.
it yet.
but I thought it was really good. I didn't like the like 3 Supermans before it because they were way too serious. This one I think had a really good balance of serious and humor. And like there was I can't remember the dog's name, but Super Dog that
Mhm.
he's part of the story. And every time he comes on the screen, it's that silliness. He's like attacking Superman to lick him all over the face. He's, chasing the, bomb that looks like a ball, whatever it is. And it works in the world. It's really ridiculously silly. And it adds that break of tension to the serious things that are either just happened or about to happen. And
Right.
it works because it's part of the world. And so you can
Mm.
accept the silly.
Right. And you have to
Well,
be
pretty much,
consistent with it
Right.
yeah,
because when you're
yeah,
not consistent, that also can kind
Mhm.
of break things out.
yeah. Pretty much anything with a dog or cat, I feel like, I mean, it's like a no-brainer.
I will, give one spoiler in my book. I have a cat, and cats can actually travel to hell on their own. So they do
Of
that
course they can.
in the secret places, like when they go hide under the couch and they disappeared. You're like, where'd you go? They actually went down to hell to, have someone who would actually show them the obeisance that they deserve.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, right there. Why
Makes
isn't
total
there a
sense.
cat on the cover? Why wasn't it just a cat? I mean, I guess I
So ironically, on the cover of Grimm's World Tales, which is a collection, so it's a
Okay.
photograph of the cat is on the desk. So
I
that's
love it.
Diana.
So I understand you're ex-military too,
I
right?
am. Yep.
And you've
Did
traveled the world quite a bit.
Mhm.
Has any of those experiences influenced some of your fantasy
Very much
worlds as
so.
well?
Yep.
How
So,
so?
I did 20 years in the Army, as a logistics officer, lived for 10 years of that in Germany, and so there's a lot of German influence in my writing. So anytime I, have
I
to
love
pull out a name or, something, German just wants to pop into it. So
Mhm.
I have in Death and Taxman an entire scene set in a German restaurant in Colorado Springs, Edelweiss, which I absolutely love that restaurant. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And so I was like, yes, I want to add Edelweiss into the book because it's German. And I can talk about all the German food and it's amazing. And I knew that I'd actually managed to get it right because one of my first reviewers was a reader from Germany, and he
Mm.
was just like, "Oh, this is amazing." Uh, he caught so many of the jokes that I made that only if you speak the German language will you get it. So right now I'm working, again for the U.S. Army as a contractor, and my job, I travel the world, to Army garrisons all around the world doing inspections. And so
I
as I
see.
travel, I get to, get more experiences to pull into my book. Like,
Oh, that's
last
great.
year, I traveled to Okinawa, Japan, and so I just explored the island, got, a whole bunch of ideas, and one of
I
my
love it.
short stories in here takes place in Okinawa, Japan.
Nice. I love
Wow,
that.
okay. That's amazing. And I'm sure you get like inspiration from for characters,
Mhm.
and how much of yourself do you put in your books?
I have a character who is, it's me. There's no getting around it.
It's me.
He is a disgruntled army logistician, who now works in corporate life. I'm like, yeah, yep, that's me.
I love it. I
So how
love it.
much military influence are in your books? Or I mean,
So that's actually kind of an interesting thought because a lot of military I know they write the military sci-fi, lots of action and guns and
mhm,
explosions,
yeah.
and that wasn't my experience in the military. I mean, I deployed several times, saw some action, but most of my struggles were with people and bureaucracy. And so that's what I write about. I write about the silly, stupid stuff that we dealt with, the pranks that we play on each other. Those have definitely fallen into my stories. I have one that's coming out in an anthology soon, called Murder Fish, and it's all stories with fish with murderous intent. And the uh, the story is about this young magician's apprentice who gets sent on a quest to go find bottled fish farts. And he's like, that is not a real thing. I know it's not a real thing, but I have to go do it because I'm sent on this quest. And so it's a silly quest about
It's a
finding
quest.
fish farts. And that's the kind of thing that we do in the Army. We're like, hey, Lieutenant, who's brand new and you don't know anything, we're going to send you on a quest. And, as it goes up to different people, hey, I'm looking for, and the people, everyone else knows that it's not real. Oh, yeah, I don't have it. But I think if you talk to Sergeant so-and-so, he might have a bag of that.
Yeah.
The game is to see how long you can keep it going. And so that kind of stuff, those silly, fun experiences, those definitely get into my writing a lot.
I love
I
it.
think we just reached a milestone. I can say that this is the first time fish farts has ever been mentioned on the podcast. I think, wow, let's mark it. It's amazing. Episode 37, the episode with fish farts.
Yep.
That'll be the magic clip. That'll be the reel that comes.
My story is titled Fish Farts, a love story.
I love it.
That's a new
awesome.
twist. That's another plot twist. Okay. Well, I was doing some research because my romance takes place on a branch that doubles as a place for vets to come home and transition back. So that was the interesting thing that I found out is just the camaraderie, but like just the razzing and the pranks and it isn't always like danger, danger, danger. Sometimes you're sort of sitting and waiting or waiting for this order or this
is one of our most common phrases.
Yeah. So what is it about? Is it about
partly it's about
razzing the new recruits and getting them kind of acclimated, or is it about making sure you don't go crazy?
Part of it is that inducting the new people into the culture. Lots of cultures do that in different ways. The military does it with kind of dark humor. And so whether it's that razzing of the new guy or as you're sitting around waiting for the action to start, poking fun at each other and, with, frankly, kind of mean jokes, but everyone laughs and then they jab right back. And it's just kind of the part of, that camaraderie. And you're building the camaraderie so that as you go to do the dangerous things, you're part of the team.
I was just curious. So and since you write humor, I'm like, every writer has quirks, right? Some need coffee, some need silence, some need chaos. What's one unusual habit or ritual that helps you get into the writing mode?
So music is actually the one for me, and it's not by choice.
Oh,
so for a while, I was teleworking, COVID and all that. And my organization, we kept the teleworking much longer. In fact, I didn't go back to the office until January. And so teleworking, I could work in pure silence at my desk, and, if I had no actual work to do, move over to my computer, do some writing. Okay, work pops up, but I have silence in my head.
right.
Whereas now, if I'm at work and I want to write over lunch, I'm in a cubicle farm. There's lots of noise and people and distractions. And so if I want to concentrate on something, I'm writing for work, because I write operations orders and stuff like that, I have to put on my headphones to block out everyone else. And so
like noise canceling headphones?
Noise canceling headphones.
Yeah.
And even the noise cancellation does not block out the loud people in the next cubicle over. They are very loud. And so I'll put on music. And I've discovered that there are certain, music will help me mood wise as I'm writing. So if I have an action scene, I've got a few different artists that I'll listen to that, kind of trick my brain into, okay, we're ready to write. If I'm on a lower tone, I got some others that will work for that. So yeah, it's more to block things out.
Cassie, what about you? Do you
Yeah,
have
I use music too, but it's really funny. I think I may have told Angela this before, but it has to be songs I really, really know well. And I got on a kick specifically after Bridgerton, not that I write historical romance, but I loved hearing current music that was lyricless. So I like instrumental pop, the current, and I'll listen to country too without the lyrics. And when the lyrics aren't on, it doesn't, unless I know the song well, it doesn't really interfere with what I'm trying to get through. So I kind of love that. But it's funny because I'll be listening to a very popular song that is now instrumental. Sometimes I catch myself
You're
doing
singing
the
along.
lyrics along. And I am not a fabulous singer. I can sing, but like I shouldn't be,
Have you ever found
trying
yourself
to
actually typing
duplicate
the
someone.
words to the song into your manuscript? You're like, no,
Uh-oh.
no, no, backspace.
No,
That
not
happened to me
yet.
one time.
That's not happened to me. Although I did make some references, and my editor was really great, and they were like, I think we need to pull these out. These could be copyright issues. So yeah, you really have to be careful of that for sure.
Mhm.
Angela, do you listen to music?
So it depends on what I'm writing. I have kind of soundtracks that I like to write to when I'm doing like the superhero stuff. And another thing that's great for everyone is something called mynoise.net. I
Okay.
believe that's it. I'm going to just double check. Yeah, mynoise.net. And it is this incredible database of all kinds of sounds. So if you're writing fantasy and you want a medieval library, it has the scribble of the pen. It has the little creaking of the door with the wind outside. And there was one where it's just spaceship sounds. So what it might sound like to move through space. If there was a scene where they were camping and I needed forest sounds just to feel like I was there. So
I like it.
I
I
like it
love
too.
it. Go to mynoise.net. You can support them or not. They run based on donations, but they have all kinds of sounds too, especially like for people with sensory issues, ADHD, all kinds of things that help you. Tinnitus, they have sounds for that. If there's a sound that exists, they have
They
it.
have it.
So that's like if I want to write really immersively, but it's so weird. When it's silent, that's when my mind wanders. So
Mm,
whatever I'm writing, also, if I'm not listening to music, I have to have a movie on
Yeah.
that
I do this.
when,
I
yeah,
tend to be that way too.
yeah.
I got onto YouTube because I also sometimes I like to be mobile sometimes when I'm writing, so I'll just have my iPad and I'll be in front of the TV. And I've gone to YouTube, the app, and I'll go to my husband was laughing because here it is summer. And I had on one of those screensaver ones where they have like the music that goes with whatever
Yes.
scenery is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I
mhm.
had
I love those.
Christmas on because I'm writing a
Nice.
Christmas. And he's like, it's 90 and you got a fireplace and snow coming. And I was like, it sets the mood. But and there's like
Totally.
sound
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have to have those on, but I
I
just
love
like,
those.
I've been rewatching 90s comedy, like romantic comedies, like When Harry Met Sally, just to have something that fills the space. And so when that silence is filled, then I can focus. That doesn't make any
Actually,
sense,
it makes
but
complete sense because you have to have something to block out. Otherwise, your brain is looking for something.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's like focusing
Or
on
my
some
to-do
click
list
somewhere.
starts hitting in my
Yeah.
head.
Write it down. I'm like, okay, it's written down, so I can forget about it now and come back to writing.
Yeah. It's just like, let me file this in my special folder called the trash. That's where my
Mhm.
to-do list goes. No, Angela, I'm not like that. I actually, well, I used to have post-it notes everywhere. This is a sidebar. Let me also sell this product to you. This thing is the greatest thing ever
Oh, I've
because
seen
it's
that.
a glass board where you make your lists,
Okay.
and then you just dry erase it whenever you're done. So it's right at
There's
your desk.
something about, though,
I
crumbling
know,
up
yeah.
my post-it notes when I'm done
Mhm.
with them.
Yes.
I don't know why, but
I
I
just
just
had so
like that.
many. Mine was like that Progressive commercial where it's that Post-it note monster, and it was just like, I'm
So I
being swallowed
progressed
by this.
beyond the post-it note monster, and now I have literal lists of lists on my phone.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, because I'm always moving somewhere, off to work and back and traveling for work and whatever. So as I think of things, I put it into the appropriate sub list of my phone list.
Of your
And
main
then, I'll
lists and
find something 3 months later, like, Oh, yeah, that was a really good story idea. What was I thinking about?
Right.
Interesting. So if you weren't writing currently in kind of satire and
Uh,
fantasy worlds, what other genres would you be writing in?
I really like fantasy and science fiction, and so I don't
I
know, because
just want to know if you
I don't
we're
like
romance
horror.
writers, so the
I
whole point of
I'm
having you on
actually
the show is
working
to
on my
get you to
first
write
romance
romance.
right now. I'm working on my first romance short story right now.
Ooh.
Is it
Um,
the fish fart one?
it is not. That one was mostly
Okay.
just wacky adventure. So this
Okay.
one is I actually looked up, okay, what are the story beats for romance? And so I plotted my story on those beats and then, wove in the, intrigue and adventure that, I need for the world that I'm building it into. And so I've got it all plotted. I haven't written it yet. So we'll see.
What are your tips for listeners saying, well, I have this story and I have this thing, and how do you even begin when you're pitching like a short story to a magazine, right? Or some sort of journal or
Mhm.
anthology? Or what are some tips that you've learned along the way for getting into those? Because I'm sure there's a lot of competition. I don't know. I say that and I have no idea because I've never done it.
So for short stories, you're not actually, pitching an idea. You're sending the completed story out to see if they'll buy it or not. So my recommendation is, write the story that is in your brain that you want to get written, um, and then find the market that fits that story. So, like, I write lighthearted fantasy and science fiction. Uh, there's a lot of horror markets out there. My stuff does not fit. So, know your
Right.
market as you're sending it out. I've gotten published several times in Dreamforge magazine. They publish lots of hopeful stories, science fiction, fantasy, and so those everything has an uplift at the end of their stories, and that's more my style. So my stories fit with them very well. So my recommendation is to find what fits well with you know matching that market to what you write. Now on the other hand, you can write a story to market. That's one of the things that we do in the Wolfpack Writers is Moon finds these markets that have specific calls, and we write a story for it. So for example, Murderfish is the third anthology in the series of the Unhelpful Encyclopedia. The first one was Murder Birds, stories with birds with murderous intent.
Oh
And
boy.
so that was it. We needed, raptor type birds is what the editor said. And, it has to be an attempted murder. It can succeed or not. That's up to you and your story, but that's it. Here's your word limits. Go. And so using that as a prompt, I wrote a story for it and got into it. And my story was about a
Wow.
flamingo and a red-tailed hawk that staged a breakout of the Chicago Zoo.
Which I would be rooting for. Yeah, I would think
Yeah.
too, like the scariest one would be like if like a little chickadee or some finch
Yeah.
was the murder bird or
Well,
something. Like that
and
would be
that was the editor's
terrifying.
problem. He'd received too many songbird submissions and not enough raptors. Because everyone was like, "Oh, someone else is gonna write a hawk or an eagle," and so he
Right.
came to the wolf pack and said, "I need more raptors, and by the way, I need them within 3 days." And so I went from
Mm,
story idea to submitted to the publisher within 3 days, and I absolutely love that story.
Oh, that's great.
that gives me some inspiration. I wonder what animal is next. Like
Well,
rodents. Ooh, that would be creepy.
yeah,
No, I
so
don't want.
the murder fish is his current one right now. The last one was murder bugs. Um,
Ew.
yeah. I think the next one he hasn't decided on it yet, so he might be doing something like cats or dogs, I don't know. So we're waiting to see where he goes with
Yeah,
it next.
that's great.
When I was first starting out, you got a subscription to Writer's Digest and Publishers Weekly, and it was really just trad publishing, and that's the only way to do it. Now there's self-publishing, but there are so many opportunities I think that we don't think of in these short
Mhm.
story venues. That's such a great way to get started and to see
It is.
what could break through before you take it to a full-length novel.
And it's a great way to learn the craft because you
Yeah.
can, with a novel, say 60 to 100,000 words in order to get your full story arc and practice your story. That's a big commitment. 5,000 to 10,000 words to, practice. Hey, I need to, practice some dialogue. I need to practice, that, kick ass ending. Well, if you do a bunch of short stories, you could practice it multiple times as opposed to
Right.
a novel. It takes a lot longer to get the same practice. So you can get more iterations. And I think it really helps hone those skills.
I love that. I write short romances, and I've been having a blast with them because I've, kind of serialized them. You can read them independently, but I have them in the same small town, and my world just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I'm just having so much fun. Now, if I could just organize a family tree of everybody, that would help me out a great deal. Because right now it's just all kind of in my head, and yeah, I can tell I'm going to get out of hand pretty
Uh,
soon, and I
yeah, what you
need
need
some
is a story
connections.
Bible. That
Yes,
thing
Yes.
that you put everything together. I haven't done that either, and it's starting to actually come back to
yeah,
bite me as I'm writing book 3 of the series going, "Okay,
yeah,
what did that person do in book 1? I don't really remember. What was their name?" So,
yeah.
what chapter was that in as I'm looking it up?
I totally used AI for this recently. I threw in a closed loop AI, I threw in my entire series and I asked it to make the connections for me to see if it would help me build my family tree. But I really need something visual.
Mhm.
It was very helpful, but it's still very bullet pointed. And, you have to look and search. And I just kind of want the tree. I want an ancestry.com for writers.
Right.
That's what I
Why
want.
don't we create this right now? Oh my God, don't speak that. I'm going to edit that out so that no one takes our idea.
I need that app and I need to
Mhm.
be able to put my pictures in it and just have the tree. Like that's what I want. Anyway.
I think that's a struggle, especially if you're writing a series, because I had to do the same thing. But I had an editor that helped start me on the path of a story Bible. That was part of her service. Was she did such a great job. She actually used to write for the Doctor Who series.
Oh, very
Yeah.
Wow.
nice.
And so she took like she knew how to organize the world's part of the Bible, the people, the powers, and she started me on that path, and that was really helpful. But I will say, do that from the beginning. So
Yeah.
you're not like, you know.
Yeah. You're like me going, and I'm contemporary romance. I mean, it's all common date, but it's all fictional, of course.
Mhm.
So I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I may
Well, and
have
the
to
thing
pay someone to do it for me, but I just
yeah.
need it easily to be searchable. That's my
Mhm.
problem. And I would love to have a visual. So, yeah.
Yeah. One last question. I created the podcast. Well, we created the podcast for authors in their awkward sophomore year who aren't
Mhm.
starting at zero, but are kind of in this um, overwhelmed state where I've published one book. Now I've got to think about marketing, writing, and a lot
Right.
of authors quit after
One or
It's
one
a
two.
book.
lot of work.
It
Yep.
is. So what would you tell someone, like if you could go back in time and tell your past self something you learned, or listeners who are in this zone where they're in that sophomore lane, what would you tell them to help
I
keep them inspired?
I would tell them to find the space to rest. So if you have to
Okay.
schedule in rest, schedule in time when you are not writing, when you are not doing day job, you can focus on family or vacation or whatever, because that the brain needs to rest in order to keep coming up with these great ideas. If you keep pushing it without a break, you'll hit burnout. And so
Yeah.
I my family, even before I started writing, we realized that we were hitting burnout because we were doing a whole bunch of home improvement projects. So it'd be finish work, come home, start doing home improvement all through the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, just work, 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 work. And we were completely burned out within 6 months. And which I don't recommend buying houses that were built in the 1950s or before because they need a lot of work. So anyway,
Yeah.
we've moved on from that house. We're somewhere different now. And we realized that we had to have that break. So we said one day of the weekend, Sunday, it is our family day. We're not going to work. We're not going to do anything. And I'd say within 90%, we managed to keep that. So even with my writing, um, even if I'm up against a deadline, Sunday is sacred, to use the term. You know, I'm not going to write. We're going to sit down. We're going to play games. We're going to watch Doctor Who. Going to do, whatever, just kind of have fun, relax, go, you know, work in the garden, take a walk, whatever it is that helps your brain chill. And then on Monday, ready to go at it again. And so in that sophomore year, when you have all the things that you are coming in on you, schedule your time to take a break. And then you
Yeah.
won't hit burnout as fast.
That made my eye twitch for a second because, well, part of you feels like you've got to keep producing. Oh my gosh, I feel like because I have such compare-itis, I'm always like, well, this person just published a
Mhm.
book. I got to keep going. I got to immediately, I finished one project, I got to start the other. But that is something I think we all need to hear because you have to recharge. You're
Mhm.
not going to like blow all these deadlines by taking a day
Right.
each week for yourself. That's kind of
Right.
normal work time,
And,
So,
give yourself a break because if, conventions go over weekends. I'm going to be doing writing stuff on a Sunday when I'm at a convention, but I'm going to try to schedule the next weekend. I don't have anything going on. So,
Right.
it's not 100%. Nothing is. If you try to keep to 100% on anything, you'll go crazy.
yeah. Yeah. Balance, everyone.
Balance. Get the balance.
Balance and fish farts. That's the key. That's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Love it.
Where can we find you? Where can people find you,
You can
David?
find me. My website is davidhankins.com. And I'm on most of the social media platforms. I'm most active on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Links are all at my website. And you can just search David Hankins author and you'll find me. And I post a lot of memes and silly stuff and, ducky things.
Yeah, what's with the rubber duckies? That was
Oh,
my
the
last question.
ducks.
What's a
Hold
lot
on.
of rubber duckies in his feeds. So I'm
Yes.
like,
Do you
what?
drive a
So,
Jeep?
these little teeny tiny resin ducks. It started out as a prank by my wife on April Fool's Day. So you can buy a bag of them for, $10 off of Amazon. And so she did. And on April Fool's Day, she put them around the house for my daughter to find. And it worked out great. She's like, oh, ducky. And she goes and gets, grabs a ducky. And as soon as she turns around, my wife, as if it were a spawn point in a video game, puts another duck right in the same spot. My daughter's, cooing about her duck. She turns around. We just took that duck. And she goes, now she's got two ducks and she's like walking around. And my wife puts another one right in the same
I
spot. And
love
so
it.
this continued throughout the morning. For a little bit, she started getting really angry. She's like, where are they
Oh,
going?
yeah.
I don't know. But we had a lot of fun. That day, I had to fly to Germany for my job. And I'm at the airport, standing in line. And I stick my hands in my jacket pockets. And I go, oh no. And I pull out the little ducks. And so I actually stepped out of line to go open up all of my bags. And sure enough, they put a little duck in every single pocket of my carry-on and my check bag. So I had 20 ducks that traveled with me to Germany. And I was like, okay, they're getting pictures all over Germany. And they became part of my social
So
media.
fun.
And yeah, ever since, it's been the travelogue of the Lost Bards Duckies.
I
That's
love it.
amazing.
That
That's
is great.
everything. So fun. Well, there's one last thing to do.
Table topics.
Yep. All right. What's an experience you've had that not many people know about? Secret.
In high school, I did a lot of martial arts. And
Ooh.
so actually I did a little bit. I lived in Colorado Springs for a while. And while I was there, I went to the Kenpo school there in Colorado Springs. And while I did the martial arts, I actually won quite a few trophies at tournaments, to include this down.
Oh my
don't
God. Wow.
For those
That's
that
amazing.
aren't seeing, it's samurai swords that we just saw.
So
We
one
went
of the
duckies
swords,
to samurai.
yep, the big one, the first place one, I won for doing a form, so a kata, where you do the fake fight just all by yourself in handcuffs.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And so it was a freestyle form thing, and I realized, I was like, a lot of this stuff that we practice, our hands are together as we're doing the things. I was like, well, how much can I do in handcuffs? And I figured out I can do quite a bit in handcuffs. And so I did my form and, got first place.
Wow.
Wow.
That's an
That's
incredible
amazing.
story.
You have layers like an onion.
Yes,
Like
you
it.
do. So experience that not many people know about me is when I was younger, my mom put me in all the different types of dance classes. And I really loved ballet and point, even though it hurt. But I was really talented at tap dancing.
Ooh.
And my mom loved me tap dancing. And I just was kind of like, I want to take jazz and I want to do it just felt like an old person's thing to do, tap dancing. But now that I'm older, I would love to do it again. You know, I used to watch So You Think You Can Dance and all
Oh,
these
yeah.
different dance shows with my youngest daughter. That's one of our favorite pastimes. And I always fell in love with the tap dancers because I know how hard it is. And I was just like, yeah, I really should have done more with that, but I won a bunch of awards
Oh,
in
very
tap
nice.
dancing too.
So do you ever embarrass your kids by tap dancing in public?
No, not really, because I'm out of shape. So, no, but yeah, it's just one of those things. I did baton, I twirled. My mom was a teacher at one time. She had a baton, and yeah, just all those things. And it was recent memories because we downsized our house and moved into a new location, a smaller house, and just gave away all my batons and tap dance shoes, all the things. Yeah. What
Wow.
about you, Angela?
You could have been like a backup dancer. I don't know. Well, a few things, but I guess the one thing that comes to mind is a few years ago, well, actually like 10 years ago now, there was a big group of us, like 40 people went down to Cayman Islands for one of our best friends. They were renewing their vows, and we all hauled all of our kids, and it was like kind of crazy. I mean, I've never traveled with that big of a group, but it was just all to celebrate our friends, and they'd been married for like 20 years. But it was beautiful. But part of the trip was going to Stingray City, where you get in with the stingrays and then they kiss you. So I'll have to
That
find my
little
picture and pop that up. No, they come up and they come to your face like this and like kiss you like this. And I'm like, first of all, do the stingrays like really like doing this? They think you're food. They're just looking for food, so they get fed and stuff. But it was funny because my husband was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting in the water. And it is a little surreal because they're just all like swimming around you. And then they like swim up your back and
yeah.
but I like that kind of stuff. So that was an experience I don't think a lot of people know that I've done. I've kissed a stingray. So, yeah.
And now you write
All
romance.
I mean, I think that's probably what set it off, and I didn't even know. Maybe I should thank the stingray in my next book. Like, thank you, Mr. Stingray. Anyway, this was such a fun discussion. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us and telling about your stories. So, listeners are just going to love this. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Don't forget to give us a review and rating wherever you listen to the podcast. It really helps us with visibility. Next week, we're talking with Dan Wilcox, best-selling dark fiction author, and he writes horror. Ooh, it's scary. Until then, keep writing, keep doing. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Thanks for joining today's episode of The Author Next Door. Be sure to like, follow, and tell us your thoughts of this week's episode. Angela and Cassie would love to hear from you.